Hey everybody, welcome to this new campaign that I'm going to be trying to do out, which is basically going to be a crossover of the Journey to the Overland role-playing game and Frostgrave by Osprey Publishing. And I've gotten a lot of requests to do some Frostgrave games, but I wanted to kind of create a narrative to make them kind of fit in with everything else I'm doing. And so I decided to put together this scenario for Journey to the Overland, so that essentially some of the characters from Journey to the Overland are going to be heading to Felstad. Now, in Journey to the Overland, there are what are known as the 5 weapons of power. And I haven't gotten to this in any other playthroughs, but it's actually one of the major game objectives, is to try to acquire one of the 5 weapons of power. So one of them is this weapon called Bloodblade. The other is the Emerald Cross. The other is the Resurrection Ring, the Bow of Light, and the Peaceful Palms. And essentially all of these weapons, if one character was basically able to get all of these weapons, you know, he could basically become king of the Overland, which is another objective in the game, is to make yourself king. But the scenario that I've created for this Journey to the Overland Frostgrave crossover is that word has come to the king of Overland that another weapon of power has been discovered in the recently revived land of Felstad, or as we all know it, Frostgrave. And the king was actually told this by a wizard named Vandril. Now Vandril is actually a wizard who, I believe Vandril guards the Resurrection Ring. And for Frostgrave game purposes, he would probably be considered a necromancer. Right, because one of the powers of the Resurrection Ring is you can use it to resurrect people from the dead. Right, and so obviously if you're an evil aligned character and you get a ring like that, you could start resurrecting a lot of things. But this is the wizard Vandril, and he is the one that has brought word to King Overlord about the rise of Felstad, or the thawing out of Frostgrave. And he has basically told the king that they need to put together a party to claim this weapon of power before Mordecai claims it. Now Mordecai is an evil wizard in the Overland who basically, his main aim is to overthrow the king. And one of the objectives in the game is to actually defeat the wizard Mordecai. And so Vandril has come to the king and told the king about this weapon of power that has been discovered. And he's told the king, you know, we need to go and acquire this weapon of power before Mordecai gets there. But like anything in any kind of kingdom, I'm trying to see if I can find an image of Mordecai. In any kind of kingdom, when one person finds out about it, many people start to find out about it. So, the king is not the only one that has been informed about this weapon of power. And this is the wizard Mordecai. Okay, and one of the objectives is to overthrow him in the Overland. And he is basically trying to consolidate his power to overthrow the king. So Vandril, which is the character I showed you earlier, has went to the king to put together a party to go to Felstad. So that's going to be one of the parties that is going to be taking part in the Frostgrave campaign. Another party is obviously going to be Mordecai. And Mordecai is basically going to put together a party of mercenaries and what's the word I'm trying to look for? Bandit knights or whatever, in order to go and get this weapon of power. He's not going to go himself. At least I don't think so. at this point it would be very risky for him to leave Fire Castle, which is where he dwells at, and go after this weapon of power himself. But he's going to have a party that goes. The king is going to send a party with Vandro, which is basically going to consist of one of his knights. The king has several knights that are called Bane Knights in the game, because the Bane Knights essentially occupy fortresses, right? That are called like Pirates Bane, Wizards Bane, Rebels Bane. And so the king is going to send one of his Bane Knights on this expedition with Vandro to Felstad in order to take one of these, in order to secure this so-called newly found weapon of power, right? And I say so-called because obviously nobody knows whether there's actually a weapon of power there or not until they go. I was trying to see if I can get you a picture of one of the Bane Knights, the three. He has 3 knights mostly, but there's actually 5 Bane fortresses. Some of the other knights have not been introduced. All right, so here's the Bane Knights. So the first one there is the first knight, whose name is Bone Lord. This is the second knight, whose name is Horatio. And this is the third knight, whose name is Swift. So one of these Bane Knights is going to be sent. I haven't determined which one is going to go yet. By the king to accompany the wizard Vandro to obtain one of this weapon of power that's been discovered at Felstad. So that's 2 of the crews that are going to be going. The third one is going to be a detachment from Elf Mountain. Now, in addition to the king of Overland, there's 2 other kings. One is the king of the dwarves, who is Thoron, and the other is the king of the elves, whose name is Aaronrude. And Aaronrude is obviously going to have his own interests when he hears about this, and it's expected that he is actually going to also send somebody to find out what's going on with this weapon of power. Now, this character here is called the Pathfinder, and the Pathfinder is kind of like this special elven warrior that kind of carries out the dirty work of the Elven King. I'm not sure if he's going to be going on this expedition or not, or if Aaronrude is just going to send somebody else from Elf Mountain, just maybe one of his generals or whatever. So now that's 3. And then you can guess the 4th is going to be the dwarves. And the dwarves under King Thorond are famous for what are known as the Dragon Slayers. Right? And this is a tapestry of one of the Dragon Slayers. But, so Thorond is also going to be sending a contingent to Elf Mountain. I don't know if you can see this. This is kind of an image here of King Thorond. He is going to be sending a contingent to Felstad or Frostgrave as well, to inquire about this weapon of power. So that's 4. And then the final one that's going to be sending a contingent to Elf Mountain is the church, right? I mean, because the church is not going to let all of these emperors and kings go after these sometimes holy relics without doing its own investigation. Excuse me. Now, in Overland, the church basically consists of Morsh Monastery. And one of the unique things about Morsh Monastery is it actually has its own order of monks, right? Its own order of monks who pledge allegiance to the monastery. In addition, the monastery has an order of samurai, right, that it can also dispatch. And these are people who have went to the church and trained to become samurai. Because this is basically an Eastern art which was brought to the monastery by a traveler named Quinn Famari, which you see there. This is Quinn Famari. And when Quinn Famari retired and took on the life of a monk, he began training and teaching others in the art of the samurai. But in addition to Quinn Famari, there's also acolytes or monks soldiers, basically martial artists that the church can use to carry out the will of the church. So that's 5. And those are the 5 bands that are going to be heading to Frostgrave. So now I'm going to show you the map and how I'm going to play this out on the game map. Okay, so if you can see this here, take a little light off it there. This is the town of Igloo, which is probably the northernmost town in the Overland. And it's very hard to get to. Basically, it's cut off by this entire mountain range. I mean, you could possibly kind of wind your way through here, up through there, which would limit the amount of time you spend in the mountains. But it's almost impassable to get to other than doing that. This is all iced terrain, which is very difficult traveling in the Overland. If you stay in this terrain too long, you will take wounds every day. Right? Now, from what we believe, or what the king has been told, Felstad is somewhere in this archipelago, this little cluster of islands. One of these is where Felstad or Frostgrave is at. It's been so long, nobody really remembers where it's actually at. So what is going to wind up happening is they are going to have to travel into each one of these and make rows to see if they have discovered Felstad or Frostgrave. Now, the parties are going to be heading out from the following locations. So you have the Elf Mountain contingent, which is going to leave out from there. The Dwarf Haven contingent is going to leave out from there. King's Castle is here. Morse Monastery is there. And Fire Mountain or Morkai, his forces will be leaving from there. So obviously the king's forces and the Morse Monastery forces are going to have the furthest to go to get to Igloo and then to discover Frostgrave. The Elf Mountain forces will probably arrive there early. The dwarves will also probably arrive there early because their dwarves move very quickly through mountains. They don't suffer the normal modifiers. Morkai's forces may actually travel by sea. So I haven't determined yet, but depending on how much of his wealth he wants to spend to send them, he could actually purchase a ship and then they could sail there, which would make their journey much quicker. So obviously the king and his forces, as well as the church's forces, are going to be at a slight disadvantage in trying to get to Frostgrave before the other bands or contingents do. Now, the way I'm going to play this out is, since these are all NPC characters, none of them will have to keep track of their food or keep track of whether they had their daily meal or any of their daily actions and things other than traveling. So they will travel through the Overland, and they will have to deal with the weather, and they will have to deal with encounters if they have encounters, because some of these parties might not make it. They may be ambushed, attacked, and they may never make it to Frostgrave. So they will have to deal with encounters. But because they're NPCs, I'm not going to keep track of whether they ate meals and other that. I will keep track if they get wounded and if there's wounds they get during the game. But I'm going to assume where a meal is required, they have a meal to eat. I'm not going to keep track of that kind of nitpicking stuff. But so that's kind of the overview for the Overland phase, right? I'm probably going to roll to see which party will get to head out first, right? And then I will play that as they make their way through the Overland. And in the next game, I will play the next party that gets to roll. There's basically 5 of them that are going to be leaving. So, they will roll in order. Whoever rolls highest will get to go first. Then the next guys will roll. Whoever rolls highest then will go second, and so forth, which will determine their order as they set out and they head for Frostgrave. So that's kind of the Journey to the Overland portion of it, kind of the crossover. As far as the stats and things go, I already have stats for most of these characters for Journey to the Overland. And I'll probably throw a few NPCs in with them, but then they'll be on their way. So while I'm on the Overland map, their stats will be basically based on the Journey to Overland game. And all of their combats will be done using my own system. Once somebody discovers Frostgrave, on the other hand, right? So once a party has made it here and they found Frostgrave somewhere in this core of islands, then they will start to use their Frostgrave stats. And we're going to take a look at the first warband I've put together, which just happens to be the elves. Okay, so now we're looking at our Frostgrave things. And obviously, I'm assuming most of you are familiar with Frostgrave, where you're going to select a wizard. The wizard selects a warband, and then you kind of select spells for your wizard, and you begin to play out scenarios in the world of Felstad or Frostgrave. And I obviously want to point out that Frostgrave is copyright of Osprey Publishing or Osprey Games, and so there's no challenge or to their copyright intended by this. This is all just for play purposes. Okay, so having said that, what I decided on is the wizard that is going to be leaving from Overland for the elves is a wizard by the name of Vinetak. And I think that, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced or not, but his name is Vinetak. He is actually the wizard who guards, he's an NPC who is actually guards the bow of light, which is one of the 5 weapons of power. So if you see here, it says the bow of light is one of the 5 weapons of power, and it's guarded by the great elf Vinetak. And then if I go to NPC characters, you know, I can give you an idea of what Vinetak looks like. Now, he's obviously not going to be bringing the bow of light with him, because he would never risk the bow of light being lost in Felstad and falling into the wrong hands. Right, because that would defeat the whole purpose to go retrieve a weapon of power and bring a weapon of power with you. But this is the great elf Vinetak. Right, he's actually one of the few elves that actually has a full beard, which is how old he is. I mean, he's very old. So the great elf Vinetak is going to be putting together a party to go to Frostgrave in search of this weapon of power. Now, based on him using this bow of light, the wizard I thought that would be most appropriate to that would be the Thaumaturge. Okay, and so this is his write-up. Now, the Thaumaturges, according to the book in Frostgrave, are wizards. I think they said they use energy, right? And a lot of their spells involve light. So it says here, Thaumaturges draw their magic powers from positive energy. Most, though not all, believe this energy comes from some form of deity. Right? These wizards are healers and protectors. So that fits right in line with my image of Vinetak as the protector of the bow of light. He uses energy. Obviously, if it's a bow that fires off arrows of light. And so he's going to be a Thaumaturge. I've equipped him with his staff. Now you get 500 gold crowns to spend in Frostgrave. So let me see, because I had a little cheat sheet. Here we go. So already it cost me 500 for him. And then I'm going to be getting an apprentice, but we'll get to that later. So for him, I started him out with basically a staff instead of a sword. And you have to pick 3 spells from your school. So kind of trying to keep into context, keep in the character with him. He chose Banish, Binding Light, and Heal. Okay, and just to give you a quick idea of what these spells are, the one I think I like best is Binding Light, Blinding Light. It's kind of like, I call it the Gandalf spell. So with Blinding Light, it basically means a figure cannot attack you, and his move is slowed until he passes a will check, and it stays on you. With Banish, he can basically get rid of any demons, or, you know, in my games, they're called elementals or beast, right, that are cast. So if, for example, the crew from Morkai were to bring some terrifying elemental or nether beast with them, he could banish it. And then finally, I gave him heal, because I think it's going to be very important that he has some ability to heal those that are coming with him, his team. And so that's Vinetac. And to give you, let's take a look at the figure I chose for him. Okay, so this is a figure I chose for Vinetac, which is basically a, I think he's from, he's a Reaper figure. Now, he's not really an elf, but, you know, I can make him do. So that's going to be Vinetac. The next character in the warband is an apprentice. Let's take a look at his apprentice. Okay, this is Vinetac's apprentice, this is a Reaper Bones figure. And basically in the game, the apprentices are pretty much the same as the wizards. I mean, they just have a little bit lower stats. But she is actually a human. She is not an elf. In fact, a lot of the elven party is going to be humans. They're all not going to be elves, at least not initially. So I bought him, we got an apprentice. So I have Vinetac and I have the apprentice. And then that was another 100 gold crowns. I think I paid another 10 gold crowns. Wait, no. I think I paid another 100 gold crowns in order to bring a captain. And I'll show you him. Okay, this is the captain, which is another Reaper miniature. And his name is Aranor. He's actually a half-elf. But he's going to be the captain. And the rules for captains is in the supplement called Cell Swords. So let me show you that. And this is a digital supplement, which I believe is going to be part of the Frostgrave folio that's coming out in later this month, or they're doing a Kickstarter for it now. But under this, you can add captains to your warband. They're 100 gold crowns, so they're pretty expensive. But the nice thing about captains is, you know, other than, I think their stats can increase. See where it says stat increase. They get additional equipment. They have additional item slots. They have a group activation where when their turn comes in the soldier phase, they can activate up to one other figure with them. I think the wizard can do 3, but they can do 1 as well. And what I really like is what's called the tricks in the trade. And what the tricks of the trade is, each captain gets 2 of these tricks of the trade that they can use. So like, and you can only use them once per game. So you can do Furious Attack, which is a +3, Riposte, which is a +1, Coup de Grace, which you can do. So the captain allows you to, and they can get more tricks of the trade as they get more experience, because your captains can gain experience like your wizards. And that's from the Cell Sword supplement. So all of my crews, basically, I've already kind of decided are going to bring captains with them. So I have the Captain Aranor. I have my wizard Vinetac, his apprentice Alondra, and after that I bought 2 archers. And like I said, these right now are just basic human archers. These are just from your soldier pick. I also bought 1 infantryman who has a 2-handed sword. So this gives you an idea if you can see him. This is the infantryman. I think this is like an Oathsworn miniature. I think that was the name of it. It was from a Kickstarter. And he actually is an elf, believe it or not. He's like, these was like their version of everyday elves. So he has a 2-handed sword. I brought 2 archers. And I don't remember where I got these miniatures from. It was in one of my on the tables. But they're from like a Robin Hood series. 2 archers. And then I got basically, I think I had enough left to get 2 thugs, which is basically my red shirts. You know, just basically some people you can send in there to get killed. in Journey to the Overland, you would just go, like if you were to seek the higher help table, I mean, these would just be some basic standard, you know, thug guys that you could hire. And that's the Elven Warband. That is the host that is going to be heading out from Elf Mountain. And so, actually, it was pretty interesting putting everything together. It took me a while. The longest time actually took me to find the miniatures. So a lot of my miniatures, unfortunately, are in storage. And I haven't bought that many elves recently, so I was really struggling to find some. I think the next warband I'm going to do is the dwarves. That should be fun. And I haven't decided if I'm going to give these guys or these parties racial characteristics, but I'm thinking about it. Because these are elves, I'm thinking of giving them like a +1 to their will, or maybe a +2 to kind of make them more resistant to magical attacks. The dwarves, you know, I might give them, you know, kind of a plus to their health, or their, is that what it's called? Is it health or wounds? Yeah, it's the health. So I may give them that, or maybe just give them better armor, just to kind of make them a little bit different. The other ones are actually, I don't think I'll have to do much for, because I'll probably use some of the creature table or beast table to put together some of Mordecai's warband. I mean, these guys are going to march right into Frostgrave, you know, and fit right in there. But okay, this is basically part 1 of chapter 1 in the campaign. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Take care.